doctors and members of this August body, which is an all India body, and we are having a wonderful enrollment of delegates. We had to open the two groups, almost 250, 500 groups. Members have registered. We are having a very excellent programs going on since past 1 month. Every Friday afternoon, 3 to 5 people eagerly await to join our programs. I am also very enthusiastic and learning and seeing our group activity. And this is our fourth Friday. This is our fourth Friday of our already announced topics. And in this COVID time, as our president has mentioned, our incomes from our profession and primary source of income has been affected because of the economic downturn and pandemic, and now the lockdown in our state from yesterday. A financial savviness or awareness and living within our means and trying to build a financial cushion as a second source of income is mandatory and becomes so important. When we were children, we never had this particular exposure from our parents or our colleagues. These times are there. Just now I was discussing with our good colleague, Dr. SRINIVAS MURKI ji, that it is very, very knowledgeable and a learning process which we have started, and group has also initiated and enthusiastically participating. I have a couple of slides to share before I introduce today's speakers and also the topic of the day. Number one, am I visible? Is the slides visible now?
No.
Yeah. No, sir.
Yeah.
Now it is coming, sir. Yeah.
So, as I said, 8 webinars we have set up. We have started on 23rd April. This is as aptly named by our secretary, Vitamin F3, Friday Financial Fitness Certification course. And we have already finished from our mentor and a senior instructor and faculty member, Dr. KOLUNDU THIRUMALAI, who has inspired us to venture into this unknown field of finances. And I have a very important and pleasant duty to introduce today's very eminent speaker, highly smart young finance expert, General Secretary of Indian Academy of Pediatrics of Visakhapatnam branch, district branch, my very good friend, Dr. SATISH VADAPLLI. Dr. SATISH VADAPLLI, to tell about him is many things, is less, as I always tell him and all the audience whenever I talk about him, he's going to talk on mutual funds. We have another important faculty today who's going to talk on the tax on taxation. He will tell us the existing laws and our awareness on how to file our income tax returns and take advantage of the government given rules and regulations. Balwant Jain sir is a chartered accountant, is also a company secretary by his profession. He's a certified financial planner. He's a renowned speaker on many TV shows like Tax Guru Show, CNBC Awaz, Money Show. He is a contributor to many of the social media financial journals. And he will be talking to us today on Axe the Tax. We already heard last Friday, Miss JINAL MEHTA. She talked about retirement solution. I'm glad that she has submitted her 6 questions for the quiz. I will be in between the talk, I will display all the 6 questions. As usual, by today evening at 7 p.m., you must answer all the 6 questions and send it to my WhatsApp number in my mobile, which I have displayed in the slide, 98480345999. All your answers. The first 5 correct answers will be selected and winners will be announced on our closing day. Prizes have been thought of, and we will be definitely giving a token of appreciation as a small prize for all the participants of the quiz. So today we are going to have two topics. One is Axe the Tax, other is Magic of Mutual Funds. This is part one by Dr. Satish, as I said. And to complete Dr. Satish background, he is also a certified mutual funds advisor, actually a very apt person to tell. He's a practicing pediatrician. He's a neonatologist. He trained in neonatology in United Kingdom in a very reputed medical centers there. He came back to Visakhapatnam. He practices there, and he is the founder of a VS Fintech, his financial company. As I already announced, this is our quiz questions. There are 6. The deadline is by 7 p.m. today only. I will publish the key for all these questions tomorrow, but all the answers should reach us by 7 p.m. today. I will, in between the two talks, I will display the 6 questions and post it in the WhatsApp group and also in the chat box. This is made on retirement solutions, which was presented last Friday by JINAL MEHTA. Forthcoming attractions or features, which I have discussed with my co-coordinator, Dr. Satish, and our President and Secretary of IAP. All presentations, PowerPoint presentations, we are collecting from the faculty, and it will be definitely shared with all the participants who are registered with us. And we are going to have a second mutual fund part 2, and also on insurance I have requested our senior faculty member, Dr. THIRUMALAI KOLUNDU sir, who has kindly accepted to do one more session for us. And there will be 2 short presentations as of now of 10 to 15 minutes each. One by JINAL MEHTA. She has accepted to do the calculations of the time and value, and also SIP, systemic investment plans, how much you have to, if you invest over a period of time, how it will be calculated over a period of time at the end of the maturity. And a very important thing is, and very glad and happy to tell you that our participant, an enthusiastic participant, Dr. MAULIK SHAH, who is a practicing pediatrician, he has volunteered to present his talk as a My Finance ladder for about 10 to 15 minutes in coming Friday. After finishing today's talk and next Friday's talk, which will be finished the first portion of our finance course, there will be a 1 hour of summing up of financial talks, capital markets talks in a panel discussion, which will be moderated by none other than our Dr. Sanjay SRIRAMPUR and Dr. SRINIVAS MURKI, along with all the faculty who are presented their talks, and also from the participants who are experts in this field, and it will be an open house. After we finish this frequently asked questions, we will go to the traditional investments in the last 2 Fridays, that is real estate and gold. We'll continue with the quiz, and we will also have a certification and the prize distribution ceremony. That will finish our forthcoming topics. And now I hand over the proceedings to Balwant Jain sir. Thank you very much. I request you to start sharing your talk, sir. Balwant Jain sir, I have stopped sharing my talk.
Thank you, Dr. Surendranath, Dr. Pavan Kumar, Dr. Ajay Kumar, and Dr. Satish. Special thanks to Dr. Ajay Kumar for the very, very kind introduction. So, good afternoon to other participants. Let us first see what we will discuss. First, I will discuss the income tax role in relating to maintenance of books of accounts, audit, etc., which as applicable to doctors. Then I will briefly explain how the taxable income is determined under the income tax law. Then we will go to various deductions which are available for all the taxpayers. Then I will discuss, since this is related with the personal finance, I will discuss some of the tax implications or tax, how the various investment products are taxed. And lastly, I'll try to briefly cover how one can plan his tax affairs with the help of HUF. Normally, HUF itself needs a full session of 45 minutes, 1 hour, but I will try to chip in something more, very, very important points related to this. As far as the books of accounts to be maintained are concerned, doctors are covered under the mandatory category of professionals who are required to maintain books of accounts irrespective of the level of their receipt. The requirement to maintain books of accounts is applicable only to the doctors who are engaged in practice, their self-practice, or working as a consultant with the hospital. But the doctors who are salaried and are under employment with any hospital or anywhere in the college, etc., they are not covered unless they as a part-time are working as a consultant with somewhere else. Every taxpayer has an option to follow two system of accounting, method of accounting in respect of two sources of income. One is the business and profession, and other is the income from other sources. So for these two source of income, every taxpayer has an option either to opt for cash system or mercantile system. Under the cash system, all the income and expenses are accounted on cash basis as and when received or as and when paid. Whereas under the mercantile system, the income is accounted when your right to receive the income accrues or when your liability to pay for the expenditure arises. Normally, all the professionals follow cash system of accounting, and you can follow different method for different heads of income. You can follow cash system of accounting for your professional income, whereas for your income from other sources, you can follow either cash system or mercantile system. As far as the books of accounts which a doctor is mandatorily required to maintain is concerned, are cash book, where all the cash receipts and payments are to be recorded, then ledger account. In case you are following mercantile system of accounting, then you have to maintain the journal book also, and where you pass the journal entries. You have to preserve the copies of the invoices raised to your patients or your clients. You have to you are also required to maintain daily case register. In addition to this, you are required to maintain or preserve all the original invoices for expenses, and you have to maintain the details of major items of inventory on yearly closing basis. I know that only a few people must be complying with this law as far as the maintenance of books of accounts is concerned, because the doctors do not have the time to comply with the maintenance of books of accounts. But I thought it proper to bring it to your notice. The doctors are required to get their books of accounts mandatorily audited in case the aggregate of the gross receipt exceeds 50 lakhs in a year, or in case they have opted for presumptive tax, which I will come by later, and they claim that my income is lower than what the law presumes it to be, then also they have to mandatorily get their accounts audited. In case you fail to maintain books of accounts or preserve books of accounts, the law prescribes a penalty of 25,000 rupees for each year of default. And in case you fail to get your accounts audited and submit the audited accounts auditor reports to the income tax department on their website, you are liable for a penalty of 2.5% of your turnover, restricted to maximum of 1,50,000 for each year of default. The professionals, a few specified professionals have a choice, an option to opt for presumptive scheme of taxation, under which they will not have to maintain all these vouchers and details, etc. They will have to maintain the books of accounts to determine their level of gross receipts. So in case your gross receipts are less than 50 lakhs or up to 50 lakhs, then law gives you an option to offer 50% or more of the receipt as your taxable income without you having to submit any document or even maintain any records. So suppose your gross receipt is 40 lakhs. So you can show income up 20 lakhs or beyond that, in case your income is more than 20 lakhs. So in case your income is more than 20 lakhs and you wish to show only 20 lakhs, which is not allowed, because the law specifies that you can offer 50% or more. However, the income tax department cannot find out whether your actual income is more than 40% unless the amount has been actually invested somewhere, which is tangibly visible to the tax department. So in case you have spent the money, and even if you have earned more than 50%, you can still show 50% as your income. From this year effective, the income tax department or the law offers you two schemes of taxation, and under the new scheme, you will not be able to claim any deductions, various deductions which will come later, like for ATC or ATD or home loan interests, etc. But you can opt for a lower slab, which is 5% for 2.5%, and for successive 2.5%, it rises by 5%. Whereas for old regime, which we have been following hitherto, the tax slab is between 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh, it is 5%, and then for 5 to 10, it is 20%, and beyond that, it is 30%. So whether the new scheme works for you or does not work for you, every individual will have to work out and find out based on the his income level. However, one thing to be noted for doctors who are engaged in practice is that for business people or for professional people, the scheme offers only a one-way street. So once you have opted for this scheme, new tax regime without any deductions or exemptions, however, with a lower tax rates, you cannot come back to the old tax regime unless you retire and you stop having any business income. Now let us see how the income is determined. So under the income tax law, there are 5 tax heads under which incomes is classified. First is the salary, second is the income from house property, third is capital gain, fourth business income, and there is a residue head of income from other sources, where any income which does not fall under the above 4 heads falls, is taxed. So this is under each head, you are allowed to claim certain deductions, like for salary, you are allowed a standard deduction up to 50,000. For house property income, you are allowed 30% of rent received, as well as interest paid. For professional or business income, you are allowed actual expenses in depreciation for your asset. For capital asset, you are allowed cost of acquisition or index cost. Like for income from other sources also, you are allowed to claim certain expenses. After the income has been computed under respective head, you are allowed to set up the losses from the under the same head but from the other sources. Suppose you have two businesses, one has profit and one has loss. You are allowed to set up one loss against another profit, except for a speculation loss, which you are allowed to set up only against the speculative income. Likewise, you are also allowed to set up your losses brought forward from previous year. All these incomes are then all these income under five heads are clubbed together, and the total of all this income is called gross total income, uh, from which you are allowed uh, before that you are allowed to set up your losses, like your business loss can be adjusted against capital heads, or income from other sources can be set up against other losses. And after that you are allowed certain deductions under chapter 6a, like ATC, ATD, etc., which I'll come later on. So these are the major deductions which are available to a taxpayer. Uh, First one, which is very popular among the taxpayer, is under section 80C, 80CCC, and 80CCD. We will discuss now. So for all these three deductions taken together, there is an overall limit of 1,50,000. So whether you can claim it under section 80C or under section 80CCD or even under section 80CCC, you can overall claim individually or aggregately 1,50,000 every year. We will discuss it in detail later on. Then is a deduction for health insurance, popularly known as Mediclaim. Under section 80E, you are allowed deduction for interest paid on the education loan taken from certain financial institutions and charitable institutions for higher education, whether in India or outside India. The deduction is available for 8 consecutive years after the first year when you start servicing the loan. The deduction is available only for the interest and not for principal payment. Unlike for home loan, you get a deduction for principal repayment. The education loan interest deduction is available on payment basis. So even if you pay interest for more than 1 year, you are allowed the deduction based on the year in which you have made the payment. There is a deduction under section 80AAA for home loan taken to buy an affordable house. The limit is 40. Affordable house is defined as a house which stamp duty valuation does not exceed 45 lakh. So for buying a house up to 45 lakh, you get a deduction of 1,50,000, provided you do not own any house and the loan has been sanctioned from a financial institution between 1st April 2019 and 31st March 2022. Earlier it was to expire on 31st March, but this budget has extended it by 1 more year. Then you are allowed deduction for donations to charitable institutions and Pradhan Mantri Relief Fund, etc. You are the people who do not have are not employee and do not own any house are allowed a deduction for rent paid by them for occupying a residential house. Only a few people are aware about this deduction. This deduction is available maximum up to 25% of the total income, subject to 5,000 rupees per month. Then there is a deduction which almost all of us avail the one deduction which is available for non-senior citizen is up to 10,000 rupees under section 80 TTA for interest on saving bank account from bank, post office, cooperative bank, etc. The other deduction is available for senior citizen, which is under section 80 TTB, is available up to 50,000. So the amount of deduction available is higher. Moreover, more items are covered. For non-senior citizen, only interest on saving bank account is covered, but for senior citizen, any interest received from bank, post office, etc., is eligible for deduction under section 80 TTB, and that too up to 50,000 rupees. So this can be used as a tax planning device in case you are a non-senior citizen and you put money in fixed deposit, and your parents, senior citizen parents, do not have that much money to put in the fixed deposit, or they have not put money in fixed deposit. So you can lend that money to your parents, and then that the money can be deposited. You can even give that money to your parents. There are no clubbing provisions, and thereby you can optimize your tax saving, because the senior citizen parent will be able to claim deduction of up to 50,000 for the FD interest, which would not have been otherwise available to you. Now we come to the various deductions for investments and expenses. As discussed, there are three items covered, three major sections covered for deduction up to 1,50,000. People generally refer this deduction of 1,50,000 as available under section 80C only. Even the items which are covered under other sections are referred to as eligible for section 80C, which is not the case, which is not the fact. So first, let us take the life insurance premium, which this deduction is claimed by almost all the taxpayers, at least those who have a dependent people on their income and who buy life insurance policy. So the deduction for life insurance premium can be made, claim can be made for premium paid for the life policy for yourself, your spouse, or your children. Mind it, your children need not necessarily be financially dependent on you. The children can be financially independent also. Still, you can pay life insurance premium for them and claim this deduction. So again, this provision can be taken benefit by senior citizens, because in case of senior citizen, there are only a few items left which can be claimed under section 80C, because there is no provident fund deduction, or there is no school fee for children. Life insurance policies are also not there. So in case your child has taken a life insurance policy, you can pay the premium and claim the deduction and optimize the tax outgo for you and your children. The deduction is restricted to 10% of the sum assured. So suppose your insurance policy's value is 10 lakhs and your premium is 1,50,000. You can claim deduction only up to 1 lakh and not beyond. The 50,000 excess premium has to be ignored. In case the policy, life insurance policy, is surrendered before 2 years, or the premium for 2 years have not been paid, then the tax benefit availed in earlier year is reversed and it becomes taxable in the year in which the policy is surrendered, or the premium is not paid in, rather, but in the second year, the premium paid and claimed in first year is reversed and has to be offered for tax. So tax treatment for money received, we will take later on while we cover the products, investment products. This tax planning through senior citizen parents, I have already covered. Then there is a deductions for home loan. With the huge real estate prices, it has become almost difficult for a person who's starting his career to buy a house without the help of a home loan. So invariably, everybody takes a home loan, at least at the initial stage of their career. This deduction is available under section 80C for only residential house, only for buying, constructing a residential house. So in case you buy an office premises, you cannot claim the deduction even if you have taken a home loan for buying that office. The deduction is in case of you have booked an under construction property, you cannot claim the deduction before the completion of the property, completion and the possession has been taken. Even if you take the possession on 31st March, in my opinion, you can claim the deduction for the entire year. In case you dispose of the house within 5 years from end of the year in which the home loan was taken, the tax benefit availed for repayment of home loan is reversed the way the life insurance premium tax benefit is reversed. However, there is no provision for such reversal if you decide to prepay or repay your home loan before completion of 5 years. The reversal of tax benefit happens only if you dispose of the house before that period. The home loan is there's a benefit of home loan is available only for in case you have taken the home loan from specified institutions only, like bank, housing finance company, central government, state government, university, your employer in case it is a public limited company, etc. In case you have taken a joint home loan, the deduction for principal as well as home loan is available to all the joint borrowers, provided you are joint owner of the property as well as co-borrower of the property and you are servicing the home loan. The ratio in which you will be able to claim the benefit is the ratio, your ratio in the home loan, the ratio in which you are servicing the home loan. The ratio once fixed is your ratio in the home loan as well as in the property is determined at the time of purchase and it cannot be changed later on. In addition to the repayment of your principal repayment amount, you are also allowed to claim deduction in respect of stamp duty and registration charges paid for buying this residential house property. One more item which is very popular is ELSS, popularly known as ELSS, which is Equity Linked Saving Scheme, which also qualifies under Section 80C. This is the product which has potential to give you the best return among all the items under Section 80C, because the effectively this is investment in equity. The ELSS is a scheme, tax saving scheme floated by mutual fund houses which have lock-in period of 3 years. So you are not allowed to redeem these units before completion of 3 years. In case you wish to create wealth and want to save tax also, ELS is the best way out. And for investing in ELSS, other speaker will also anyway cover this, but I will advise that don't go for lump sum investment. Invest in your ELSS through SIP. Divide your, determine what amount you have to invest during the year after deducting the mandatory items like life insurance premium, school fee, etc. from 1.5 lakh and divide that sum by 12 and set up an SIP to start the investment in ELS. Though the ELSS product itself has a lock-in period of 3 years, but after 3 years, there is no guarantee that you will earn profit or your investment will show a positive return. It may also happen that after 3 years, your ELSS investment may show depreciation in the value. So be prepared to remain invested minimum for 7 years, in my opinion. For any equity product, pure equity product, one has to have a time horizon of minimum 7 years so that probability of you losing money on your investment is almost nil. We had conducted a research in our earlier organization based on the value of Nifty, and we had arrived at a conclusion that if anybody had started a SIP in any day during the year, during the 10 years period of 30 years extended period, there was no chance of you losing money, even if you had started at the peak of the stock exchange. So be prepared to remain invested for 7 years. ELSS can also be used effectively for saving the tax without having to invest more money. You can redeem your ELSS investment and make fresh investments on the same day in case the investment has already completed 3 years without you having to put any extra money, and you will be able to redeem and purchase the ELSS on the same NAV. So thereby you can recycle your ELSS investment. PPF is one more very popular item for tax planning. More than tax planning, it is used for creating wealth or for retirement planning or for creation of HUF. So the like a life insurance policy, you can contribute to PPF account of yourself, your spouse or your children. Child may be minor or major. Even though the HUF is not allowed to open an HUF account, but the tax laws allow an HUF to claim the deduction under section 80C for the contribution which it can make to the PPF accounts of its members. We will discuss in detail about benefit of HUF at the end of the session. Since the interest on PPF account is fully tax-free and it gets you tax benefit also, it is an excellent tool to create or accumulate wealth for your retirement, because the money which is invested remains tax-free during your high tax rate years. Due to this compounding benefit, if you start investing early, you can plan your retirement with the PPF itself. Like retirement planning, even for creating, lots of parents worry and wish to buy, create corpus for their children, and in that, for that purpose, many of people fall prey to life insurance policies of life insurance companies, popularly known as child plan, which are not suitable product for investment. So for creating wealth for your children, you can start his PPF account from the year of the birth. And since PPF interest is exempt, though the income of minor is required to be clubbed with the parents, but due to the nature of the interest being exempt, the money gets accumulated in the PPF account of the child without there being any tax implication either for the parents or for the child. And since the gift from parent to children are tax-free or are not covered under the definition of gift, there are neither tax implication for father or parents or the children. One thing to be noted is only a few people are aware that as per the Provident Fund rule, PPF rules, there is a restriction of 1,50,000 up to which a person can contribute either towards his account or towards the PPF account of his children taken together. So for example, if you put 75,000 in your PPF account, you cannot put more than 75,000 rupees in the PPF account or your children. And in case you put 1,50,000 in your account, you cannot contribute towards the PPF account of your children. But however, you can bypass this rule by gifting certain money to the minor child, and then the child can put that money in his PPF account from his PPF account. The interest on PPF account or all saving schemes used to be fixed earlier, but for last few years, the interest rates have been made floating for all saving schemes, including PPF. So for PPF, the interest rate is announced every quarter, which may remain the same or may change. And this in the new interest rate on PPF applies to all the accumulated balance in the PPF account, unlike NSC and senior citizen saving scheme, where the money put in gets locked at the prevailing interest rate for 5 years. This is a product which is very useful for senior citizen who do not have any avenue to save tax as well as to ensure higher interest rates. So this is covered under section 80C within the overall limit of 1,50,000. The interest received on senior citizen saving is fully taxable like other interest, and the bank will deduct the TDS if interest exceeds 50,000 for who have completed 60 years. The people who have completed 55 years can also put money in senior citizen saving scheme, but then the TDS slab will be 40,000 rupees for them. The senior citizen can claim deduction up to 50,000 for interest on senior citizen saving scheme. And in case you are not a senior citizen and you put in senior citizen saving scheme, you do not get any deduction. Presently, it earns you highest return, except the Sukanya Samriddhi scheme. So presently, the rate of interest offered on senior citizen saving scheme is 7.4. The interest, as I said earlier, gets fixed for 5 years. So for those all who wish to put money, wish to lock in the money, should put and have completed 60 years, should put money in senior citizen saving scheme, because in all likelihood the government may reduce the rate, because the government had announced reduction in the rate but had to withdraw the circular reducing the rate. So eventually I think the rates may come down next quarter. The money, the tenure of senior citizen saving scheme is 5 years, but you can extend it for another 3 years, but at the rate which was prevalent at that time. The PPF account has a tenure of 15 years, but you can extend it for a block of 5 years for any number of blocks, However, in case you are you become a non-resident after opening the PPF account, you can continue to contribute to it till the original tenure or extended tenure, but you are not allowed to extend it beyond the extended tenure or the original tenure. National saving certificates offer you 6.8%, have a tenure of these all are eligible for ATC deduction. The beautiful thing about the national saving certificate is that in case you are facing liquidity problem, you can temporarily arrange money and buy national saving certificate, and then you can play those NSCs with bank and get loan up to 80-85%, and without investing money substantially, you can avail the tax benefit. For interest accrued on NSC, you have option either to offer it on accrual basis or on receipt basis. But if you offer it on accrual basis, the interest which accrues on your NSC for all years except the year of maturity, you can claim the same for the deduction under section 80C, because the interest accrued is also deemed to have been invested by you and thus eligible for section 80C. The maturity proceeds are fully tax-free. The PPF maturity proceeds are tax-free. Senior citizen maturity proceeds are tax-free. For ELSS, the capital gain is taxable at 10% without indexation after initial exemption of 1 lakh. We will cover the taxation of a mutual fund in a separate presentation with the mutual fund 2. You are allowed to claim deduction in respect of school fees paid for full-time education of any of your two children in India, mind it, the deduction which you can claim is available only for tuition fee and not for other expenses. So in case you have paid donation for development fund, etc., you cannot claim deduction for it. So the school fee deduction is available for education in India, but education loan interest deduction is available even if the education is taken outside India. For the amount of fees which you have paid with the help of education loan, you can, provided the education is happening in India, you can claim the deduction under section 80C for the tuition fee and interest under section 80. Next comes the deduction for NPS. Only a few people have opened the account under NPS. So for your contribution to NPS and all these items explained earlier, there is an overall deduction of 1,50,000. And in addition to that 1,50,000, you are also allowed exclusive deduction of 50,000 if you contribute towards your NPS account. This is over and above 1,50,000, which is available to you. NPS has a little complicated structure. You can have two type of accounts, the tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 is mandatory and tax benefit is available for tier 1 only. For tier 2 account, tax benefit is available only to the central government employees for whom it gets locked for 3 years. So, however, since the fund management charges are very low, is a fractional of percentage, it can be used to park your surplus fund and earn better returns than the mutual funds. As far as tax benefits are concerned, tax benefit can be claimed by yourself or as well as by your contribution made by your employer in case you are a salaried person. So for your contribution, in case you are salaried person, you are allowed 10% deduction. A higher deduction is available for central government employees of 14%. And for those doctors who are practicing, you can claim deduction and up to 20% of your gross total income. And this 10% and 14% deduction is with respect to the salary income. The employer earlier, within the limit of 10% of the salary, the contribution made by employer towards your NPS account was fully tax-free. So suppose your basic salary was 1 crore, and if your employer contributed 10 lakhs towards your NPS account, the full 10 lakhs used to be eligible for deduction under section 80 CCD2. But with the budget of 2020, the central government has put a restriction of 7.5 lakh of contribution for EPF, Employee Provident Fund, superannuation and NPS taken together. So if the employer contributes more than 7,50,000 for all these three items taken together, the income accruing to your balance for contribution in excess of 7,50,000 gets taxed year after year. As far as the maturity process is concerned, we will take it a little later. You are allowed to claim a deduction for a health insurance premium, which is popularly known as Mediclaim. There are two categories for which you can claim the deduction. One category is for yourself, your spouse, and your dependent children. And the second category is your parents. Parents need not necessarily be financially dependent on you. So you can pay the health insurance premium for your parents, and your parents can pay life insurance premium to maximize the tax benefit. The deduction for each category is 25,000 rupees. However, in case the premium is paid for senior citizen, then a higher deduction of 50,000 is available. So suppose you are a non-senior citizen and your parents are senior citizen, then 25,000 for yourself, 50,000 for your parents. In aggregate, you can claim 75,000. In case you are senior citizen and your parents are obviously senior citizen and you pay for them, then you can claim up to maximum up to 1 lakh deduction. One thing to be noted is that the payment has to be made otherwise than by cash. So suppose if you pay the medical insurance premium by cash, you cannot claim the deduction. In case senior citizen who do not have any health insurance, the law allows them a deduction in respect of regular medication, health checkup and hospitalization. The deduction is available up to 50,000 for each for the senior citizen. So the senior citizen himself can claim this 50,000 rupees. Each of his children, his or her child can also claim in case there are huge medication expenses for them. But provided the payment has been made through check or credit card. So for day-to-day medicine also, for the senior citizens who do not have the health insurance policy, they should pay by credit card or online payment and claim the deduction under Section 80D. Within this limit of 25 and 50,000 rupees, there is a sub-limit of 5,000 rupees, which you can pay in cash for regular health checkup, which we call annual health checkup or preventive health checkup. So the 5,000 is available for your family and 5,000 is available for your parents. So in aggregate, you can claim 10,000 rupees for both the category taken together. Now we are through with the deductions available. Now we will take the tax implications of various investment products. For life insurance policies, maturity proceeds are fully tax-free in case the money is received as a death claim. However, in case non-death claim, the same are taxable in case the premium paid for the policy exceeded 10% of the sum assured during any of the premium paying term, then the entire amount becomes taxable. But in case the premium is up to 10%, then the full money received is exempt in your hand under Section 1010D. For the policy which were issued after 1st April 2003 and before 1st April 2012, the ceiling was 20%. For people who are differently able, instead of 10%, even up to 15% of premium is allowed. ULIP is a very popular product, and it was offered as a tax-free item, investment item against the equity taxation of 10%. So this budget has brought in deduction of has changed the law relating to maturity proceeds of ULIP. So in case the annual premium for your ULIP policy exceeded 2,50,000 in a year, any year, then the policy which have been issued after 1st February 2021, the maturity proceeds of those will not enjoy the exemption, and then you will have to find out the capital gain. It has to be then treated as a capital asset, and you have to tax it as a capital gain. There is a difference between the ATC treatment and Section 1010D treatment as far as insurance premium is concerned, quantum of insurance premium is concerned. Under Section ATC, even if the premium exceeds 10% of the sum assured, you are allowed deduction of 10%, up to 10%. But in case premium exceeded 10% in any year, then the maturity proceeds do not enjoy tax exemption under Section 1010D. So those who have bought ULIP policy have to be mindful that in case you top up your ULIP policy when the market is down, please ensure that the aggregate premium together with the top up premium does not exceed 10% of the sum assured. Otherwise, the maturity proceeds will not enjoy the tax exemption. In case the insurance policy maturity proceeds are not tax exempt under section 1010D, then the insurance company will deduct 5% tax for in case the maturity proceed exceeds 1 lakh, but that 5% deduction will be on the taxable portion of the policy and not the entire sum. People who buy annuity policy or get annuity through their employer, the annuity is fully taxable, whether it is received from your employer or annuity received from your employer is called pension. Whereas you get pension from a life insurance policy company also for annuity bought from them. So both are taxable, but you enjoy a standard deduction for pension or annuity received from our employer or from Provident Fund Office or superannuation annuity policy bought from insurance company by your employer. But however, in case you yourself have bought any life insurance policy for annuity, the annuity becomes fully taxable in your end. As far as your NPS taxation is concerned, for NPS tier 2 account, you get the money, you can withdraw the money after completing 60 years and not before that. And even after completing 60 years, you are allowed to withdraw only 60% of the corpus. And for the 40% of the corpus accumulated in your NPS account, you have to mandatorily buy an annuity from insurance company. Though the account matures still on you completing 60 years, but the scheme allows you to extend it till 70 years of your age. In respect of the annuity which you have bought, which you receive, in respect of 40%, the annuity is taxable as and when it is received by you. In respect of tier 2 account, it is like a saving bank account and only profits are taxable, though the law does not provide anything about how the NPS will be taxed, but it has to be taxed as a capital investment. So like other mutual fund, you have to tax and apply the indexation benefit. But since these are not, tier 2 account is not defined as an equity oriented scheme, you have to treat them as debt fund and they become long-term only after 3 years. ELSS maturity proceeds, we have already discussed that the profit will be taxed at 10% beyond 1 lakh together with your other profits on the other listed shares and other equity products. Sovereign gold bonds is of late has become very popular because for other gold products, either you have to pay the insurance or the locker charges, etc. The sovereign gold bonds, which are offered by the government, offer you 2.5% of interest on the issue price, though the interest is taxable. But instead of you incurring any cost, like for gold ETF, you have to bear 1.5% annual maintenance charges. Or even for other gold also, gold saving fund also, you have to pay the fund, bear the fund expenses. Sovereign gold fund, you can say, use this Hindi kahavat, aam ke aam, gutli ke dam. So you get the interest also and money is quite safe. Profit made on the investment in sovereign gold bond are fully tax free if you redeem it with the government, with the RBI. However, since these are also listed on the stock exchanges, and if you sell them on the stock exchanges, the profits are taxable, but you are allowed to claim the indexation benefit on the cost of purchase of such bonds. There are two issues lined up during this May. And if you apply online, you get a deduction of 50 rupees. So the price of sovereign gold bond is determined based on the gold prices and the gold market for the preceding week. Likewise, the maturity value is also decided based on the gold price prevailing in the week preceding the week in which maturity is there. Bonds and debentures, the interest are is fully taxable, but you have option to offer it on accrual or receipt basis. You are not allowed to have any indexation benefit for bond and debenture. In case you realize more than what you had invested, the difference is taxed as a capital gain depending on long term or short term, depending on the holding period. If it is held for 3 years and more than 3 years, it is long term. Otherwise, it is treated as a short term and added to your income. Long term bond capital gain is taxed at a flat 20% without indexation. Reverse mortgage, for those who have not been able to save enough money for their retirement and have a own residential house in which they are staying, reverse mortgage offers an excellent opportunity. I would say golden walking stick. They can stay in the house and still can get installments from the bank. They have to just mortgage the house. They are allowed to stay in the house till they stay in they are alive. So in case of the death of the primary owner, even the spouse is also allowed to stay in the house, and they are not required to vacate the house. The installment which you receive in respect of a reverse mortgage is fully tax free. However, the reverse mortgage scheme also offers you an opportunity to buy an annuity from an insurance company by taking money from the bank. So in that case, the annuity received by you from insurance company will become taxable. There is no tax liability at the time when you mortgage your house with the bank. However, whenever the house is sold either by the bank or your legal heir, there is a capital gain tax liability depending on the holding period and the cost. PPF is fully tax free at all at the initial stage. You get the benefit of section 80C. I would advise people, even if their 80C benefit is getting exhausted due to other mandatory items like insurance or school fees or for those working provident fund, etc., they should still put 1,50,000 in everyone's account and enjoy the benefit of tax free. And since doctors are generally in higher tax rate, the effective interest rate on PPF is higher than any other risk-free avenue. Taxation of mutual fund and real estate, etc., will be taken in later discussion. Now we have come to the last slide. So HUF is nothing but is a short form of Hindu undivided family. This is HUF is treated as a separate tax entity. So you can have a HUF PAN number in addition to your own PAN number. You can have investments in HUF's name. You enjoy the basic exemption, etc. Except for the state of Kerala, Kerala has banned the concept of HUF. So there cannot be any HUF in the Kerala, but outside Kerala, one can have an HUF. HUF can be had by any Hindu, Sikh, Jain, or Buddha. All the people who follow all the four faiths can have an HUF. People ask me many times, we want to form an HUF. So I have to respond. I have to tell them that HUF cannot be formed. HUF comes into existence by operation of law. So the HUF, as soon as you get children in your family, whether a male or a female, an HUF comes into existence. So you do not have to do anything. You do not even have to prepare any documentation, etc. However, banks people insist for a lack of information or knowledge, they insist for an affidavit. In that case, you may have to prepare an affidavit. Otherwise, no documentation is required for starting the HUF. You should have a PAN number for your HUF before you initiate any financial transactions in the name of HUF. So we first apply for a PAN number, then have a bank account, then do the KYC, etc., and then you are done for starting the investments, etc. HUF can carry on business. So a business can be carried on in the name of business HUF, provided there is involvement of capital. So in case of any business, which business or profession which requires personal skills, that business cannot be carried on in the name of HUF. HUF can be used for minimizing your tax liability, because it separately enjoys the basic exemption limit of 2,50,000. So the income which can be divided you can divide that income between you and your HUF. Then you can minimize your tax liability. HUF can pay the life insurance premium for its member and claim deduction under Section 80C. HUF can pay the health insurance premium for its member and claim the deduction as discussed. Though the HUF, we have already discussed, HUF cannot have a PPF account, but it can always contribute towards PPF account of its member and claim the benefit. For long-term capital gains on equity, which we will discuss in detail later on, the law allows you an initial deduction of 1 lakh. So this 1 lakh deduction exemption is available to all the taxpayers. So you should have your equity investment in all the family members' name, including your HUF, and you should have at least long-term capital gain booked to the extent of 1 lakh in each person's account, and to minimize the tax incidence on your equity investment. With this, I think we come to an end. The questions we will take later on. Over to Dr. Ajay Kumar.
I'll take it over from here, sir.
Yes.
Balwant sir, thank you so very much. In fact, most of our colleagues have been asking about the HUF. You have a good brief snapshot of HUF. And most of our colleagues will start having that bookkeeping habit.
Oh, very good. So I did not want to scare anybody. Huh?
But that was a comprehensive presentation, sir. I really thank from the board of Pediatric Academy of Telangana State for giving such a brief snapshot. I request all my colleagues who are attending this webinar, the entire taxation, as you understand, cannot be covered in one session or one lecture. But Balwant sir has gladly accepted our request that if anybody wants to approach him personally for tax planning or financial planning, he'll be happy to help. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you so very much for that wonderful presentation. Now I will take it on to the next session on the magic of mutual funds. This has been my favorite topic forever. Just give me 1 minute. Pavan sir, are you there? Ajay sir?
Yeah, Satish. Yeah, you can continue. Yeah.